I love me a good looking motorcycle, so what? Yes, it's important that form follows function, yada yada, but despite the fact that most fun on motorcycles is had in the saddle from where you can't see the bike anyways, it's a definite plus to walk up to a good looking bike. Last year I reviewed the newly updated Yamaha MT-09, link in the top right corner, and declared it the best bang for your buck performance motorcycle on the market. The thing is a blast to ride, fast, powerful, stiff chassis, great handling, and one of the truly wonderful motors in motorcycling. Its only flaw? Looks, and that's just my opinion. The Racer Boy looks are divisive, though they could be improved by changing that headlight and adding a fly screen. But for riders like me who want a bit of retro cafe style with their back road shenanigans, Yamaha makes a retro version, the XSR900, and this bike fixes my major complaint with the MT-09. It is sweet looking and has been seriously revamped for 2022. In addition, there are differences between this and the MT-09. What are they and how fun is this motorcycle? I spent a week with this baby, so stay tuned for the full scoop. And please consider subscribing and liking and sharing the video to help the channel grow. First of all, let's be real. The XSR900 is way prettier than the MT-09. I know that looks are subjective, but in this case, few motorcyclists would disagree. There are definite similarities like the massive frame, engine, wheels, suspension, and display that are shared between the two bikes. However, the XSR900 has that cool looking round headlight, funky cafe seat, bar end mirrors, standard cruise, and if you look closely, it's longer. Its wheelbase is actually about 2.5 inches longer, which changes the character of the motorcycle. But more on that later. On the XSR900, you can feel like Kenny Roberts winning a MotoGP or a dirt track race. It doesn't look like any specific Yamaha from the past, but combines 70s styling cues with modern cafe aesthetic and a great paint scheme to turn heads. I love the gold wheels and Yamaha's blue paint. There's an industrial component to the design with a mix of textures and finishes that blend together nicely. Honestly, I was iffy about this new version when I first saw pictures of it, but upon seeing it in real life, I'm sold. The previous model was nice, but this one looks better. Now the heart of any motorcycle is its engine, so let's start there because this one is brilliant. Yamaha's recently upgraded CP3 engine is one of the great motors in motorcycling. It's a 3-cylinder 889cc torque monster that throws down 115 horsepower and 69 pound-feet of torque. And even though those numbers are impressive, they understate how awesome that power feels. This bike rocks and rolls with a big hit of power right off the bottom of the rev range and doesn't start to peter out until you're hitting twice the speed limit on the fastest Ontario highway. There really is nothing negative to say about this mill. Last year when I reviewed the MT-09, I felt a flat spot around 5,000 RPM followed by a rush toward redline. Yamaha must have addressed this because on the XSR900 I don't have that sensation. The power delivery here feels more linear. The XSR is light and compact with a low center of gravity which contributes to this motorcycle's light feel. It sounds brilliant. And even looks cool with some empty space behind the motor, letting you look through the bike like old school air-cooled designs. The stock exhaust combined with the intake noise are impressively loud and aggressive, and I'd be seriously interested in hearing this engine with an aftermarket muffler. The XSR900 comes with the same electronics found on the MT-09. You have 4 power modes, with mode 1 trying to rip your arms out of your shoulders every time you whack open the throttle, and mode 4 putting you to sleep. Hint, put it in mode 1 and forget it. There are 2 traction control modes as well, plus a custom user mode you can dial in yourself. In addition, you get a 6-axis IMU which coordinates traction control and ABS depending on how far you're leaning. There are still competitors out there that don't include this feature. However, the fact that power and traction control modes are separately adjusted by the rider is needlessly complicated. Where most bikes have your sport, touring, and rain modes that dial in power and TC automatically, Yamaha makes the rider scroll through 2 different screens to make changes which necessitates stopping and taking your time. I prefer preset modes I can switch on the fly with one button. I do like the fact that the bike comes with cruise control standard, a nice touch on a pretty inexpensive motorcycle. What about handling? When I tested the MT-09, it seemed almost telepathic and was the weight and size of a 650 class bike but with twice the power. The XSR is similar but a bit muted down. It is very light, 425 pounds wet, only 8 pounds more than the MT-09, but it is longer, which makes it a bit more stable but a bit slower to turn in. You see, the MT-09 is a brilliant bike with very quick handling, but under hard acceleration, it wants to lift that front wheel and gets a bit squirrely, a tendency exacerbated by that rush of power at high revs. Additionally, it feels like you're sitting a bit further back on the XSR and that the bars are narrower and further away, which makes it less nimble than the MT. You're more stretched out and leaning into the wind, and the steering is not as fast. However, the bike is surprisingly thin between your knees due to the cutouts in the tank. It's still a very light and nimble bike, just not quite at the MT's level. The MT is a complete hooligan bike, and while the XSR900 also excels in that role, it is more civilized, less prone to wheelies, and a bit less twitchy. The 2.5 extra inches added to the XSR900, I'm guessing in the swing arm, settle down the front wheel. The bike is stable, can rip up a twisty road, and should keep up with pretty much anything out there in real-world situations. But because your weight is a bit further back and your wheelbase a bit longer, naked bikes like the MT-09 or the KTM 890 Duke are better choices for very tight twisties and will be more suited to the racetrack if you're intending on doing track days. However, even given that, the only real handling complaint I have is a rather large turning circle. At full lock, the XSR can barely make a U-turn on a 2-lane. Suspension is good with a range of adjustability front and back. The bike handles corners solidly, and its lightweight allows for easy direction adjustments mid-corner. Yamaha offers the MT-09 in SP trim with upgraded forks and an Öhlins shock, but the XSR comes with the standard suspension only. I didn't find this an issue as it handles bumps well and stays composed in bends. The gearbox works flawlessly with a slipper clutch and quick shifter coming standard. That's value. Brakes are Nissan, and while they're not superbike level, they do the job competently enough that I didn't notice them. They're good brakes at this price point. One of the details I like about the XSR900 are the bar end mirrors. In addition to looking the business, their location eliminated one of my pet peeves with a lot of naked standard bikes, my elbows obscuring the view. Because they sit so low, they provide an unobstructed view of the action behind you. The dash on the XSR900 is the same as the one on the MT-09, and while I get that this leads to manufacturing efficiencies that keep the price low, I like to see something a bit more round and classic looking on this bike to complement its classic lines. The saddle deserves some attention because this is one of the issues I had with the new XSR when I first saw pictures. I didn't like the look of the new stepped saddle, preferring the flatter one on the older model. But when I saw the bike in person, my impression was very different. Now I prefer the new one with its contoured shape and the hidden rear light, unlike on the older model. The seating position is roomy for a 6-foot-plus rider, and the seat is low enough, 31.9 inches, for shorter riders to touch down as well. The seat is firm, which many consider a minus, but I like it better than soft seats which wedge you in and give you numb bum. The back seat suited Brooke fine. It's narrow but slants forward a bit, keeping the passenger from sliding back, and its height gives the passenger a better view of the road ahead. Particularly funky are the passenger pegs, which tuck away rather cleanly. The tank is a smallish 14 liters. If you can refrain from acting a fool on this bike, you might go 250 kilometers on a tank. But I bet you can't. 200 kilometers or 125 miles of hooligan riding has you looking for a gas station. And so we get to one of this motorcycle's strongest suits, the price. I'm on record in declaring the MT-09 to be the best performance for buck motorcycle on the market. And while the XSR900 is a bit more expensive, as retro bikes usually are, the difference between it and the MT is small. In the United States, the XSR900 costs $10,000, only $500 more than the MT. While in Canada, the price is $12,300, $900 more than the MT-09. Considering that the standard MT doesn't come with cruise, I'd say that the XSR is at least as good a deal. But why would you buy this over an MT-09? If you want performance only, you wouldn't. If looks matter to you, or if you're taller, or you want cruise control, the XSR900 will be your choice. Yes, this motorcycle is not quite the crazy hooligan machine that the MT-09 is, but it's almost there while being a bit more stable at speed, which is not necessarily a bad thing. If I was in the market for a naked standard, this package is hard to beat. Light, powerful, roomy, great sounding and looking, and reasonably priced with Japanese reliability to boot. Negatives: slightly slower steering than its sibling, huge turning radius, the dash could look better, the range could be further, and convoluted rider and TC modes. However, despite the drawbacks, I think this one will be a winner for Yamaha. I have to admit it's my favorite naked bike and proves that retro looks don't have to go hand in hand with retro performance. If you count this bike as retro, then performance-wise, its only competition is the Kawasaki Z900 RS. I'll try to get a week on that bike and then bring you a retro performance comparison. So, what do you think of the new XSR900? Could Yamaha entice you away from more traditional bikes like the Triumph Bonnevilles or the Royal Enfields with this one? I'm telling you now, this thing will dust everything else retro with the possible exception of the Kawasaki. It looks retro, but it rides decidedly modern. Please leave your thoughts in the comments and enjoy what's left of the summer. Ride safe.
If you're interested in any of the gear that Brooke and I wear or use, or the camera equipment we use to film this channel, the links are below. Everything listed there was bought with our own money and we are not sponsored by any company. However, the links below are affiliate links and the channel is paid a small amount for referring you to shop at no additional cost to you. We do not recommend any products that we are not satisfied with ourselves, but we do strongly urge you to do your research and select the correct size for items like helmets and clothing. As always, thanks for watching, your support is greatly appreciated. Please hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. And whatever you ride, enjoy it. Wave at other bikers no matter what they're riding, we're all part of a brotherhood and sisterhood. Keep the rubber side down, shiny side up, and may the spokes be with you.